Hi, this is Kalyan Karmakar, and welcome to a new episode of Foodocracy for Her and a new episode of Eating Books. So, Foodocracy for Her, you probably know, is where I speak to women who are doing fabulous work in the world of food, and which is why we've got Deeba Rajpal over here. But eating books is something which I got, I sort of got the idea of starting after my last podcast interview, which was with Abhijit Banerjee, the Nobel Prize winner who just written a cookbook. And then I thought that there's so many people who are writing interesting books around food, and it's nice to sort of talk to them and get the author's mindset, and maybe then not limited only to women. So this is eating books as well. I hadn't thought of the name last time around, but now I have. And Diva, this is absolute torture because I'm having like a coffee and espresso decaf, it's after lunch, and I'm holding this book, you know so I mean this is absolute torture. So so this is, oh my god, cookies and brownies and strawberries, and oh god, this is absolute torture. I don't know if I should stop the interview at this point. But welcome on board, Diva. So glad to talk to you. We've met a couple of times, but yeah, so welcome on board.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me over. This is great
No,
fun,
no,
and I'm
no.
happy to torture you. But I remember the story that you put out, and you asked people to come and bake for you out of the book and buy the book and bake for you. So you have a way around, I think.
Yes, I am a bit greedy that way, or like we say, angla. So, Deeba and I sort of follow a similar trajectory in a sense that we both started our blogs in 2007. Deeba is a Delhi girl who's lived all over because dad was in the Air Force, but then back in Delhi by the time she was there to complete her education and everything. And now Gurgaon, right?
That's right. Yeah, Gurgaon.
Yes, which is Delhi NCR, but to outsiders, it's Delhi. And Deepa is a professional photographer. All right. Anything I'm getting wrong,
Mm,
just tell
yeah,
me.
no. I'm very amateur. I don't understand the camera, but I enjoy photography. So
Yeah,
whatever you
because
see, I shoot from the heart,
huh,
but I do not understand the camera.
okay, because I was just going to the first line of her intro at the back, which said food stylist and photographer,
Yeah,
and
so
I
I
mean we've seen
photograph,
your
but not
photographs. So
professional at all.
yeah, okay.
Happy one.
And Deva is or was a home baker, so that's how she started. And here is very important to sort of understand that home baker and home chef now the terms mean that people who are baking or cooking from home for retail. So I was just checking that with Deva. She at one point did bake for retail, but now she bakes primarily for her husband, uh, kids, and if you're lucky enough to be her,
Absolutely.
friends and relatives living close by. So she's that. She started, and this is where the commonality is there. She started her blog in 2007, which is the same name as the book, Passionate About Baking, and made a mark right from the beginning. And I would say that, I mean, I've rarely seen an article on the top bloggers of India where Deeba is not featured. Having said that, I must say that today hardly anyone writes about the top bloggers of India. They write about the Instagrammers, influencers, and all of that. So I don't know if, I mean, I don't feature there. I don't know if Deeba does.
Oh,
but,
I
but,
barely do.
but,
I'm probably not there anymore.
no, no,
Times have changed.
you're very much there. I mean, it's just that it's different ways and
Oh, of course, the
stuff.
world has
So
changed completely from when we started to now.
yeah, but like blue jeans, which is the analogy which I normally give, but I would rather say like a chocolate cake. It's sort of evergreen. I mean, some things never go out of fashion, do they? I mean, there will be,
Touch wood.
crouton, whatever, the funny stuff coming in, but finally it all comes down to this. The
Yeah,
latest
the old
innovation I saw
comfort.
was a cup pizza, like pizza shaped like a cup. I said, okay, okay, enough of me. So now, Deepa, tell me. So tell me, because there are two tracks to you, which is interesting: photography and baking, and both are, I believe, self-taught. So how did the interest in baking happen? Is it because you were an Air Force kid?
I think so. I'm not sure where the interest came from, but there was always an oven at home. You know, the old record ovens, which had, I don't know, the armed forces always had it with the glass on top, and you could peep in, and there were insulation beads around and stuff. Very
So
fascinating. We
from
would
from
fix
top you
our
could,
set
so
with a bead.
from the top.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
not like this. Oh
There
wow.
were round ovens.
Huh,
Really nice.
huh.
And that insulation beads around, and if they broke, we could fix it ourselves and stuff like that. So we started baking actually in the summer holidays, where life was really hot in Delhi and extremely boring as well, nothing to do. No internet, obviously, barely a telephone, television was unheard of at the time. So, yeah, a couple of baking books and relatives who would keep coming from overseas. So the ideas came in and just bake. I can't even imagine, but I was baking profiteroles during the summer holidays then.
So were you in college, school, or what? Which phase
School,
was this?
school.
School. Okay.
College
Wow.
didn't give me time to do anything. I was just too bored.
What did you study in college?
College wasn't my kind of thing that I enjoyed. I was far too bored
No,
to
no,
do all of this, and I didn't know what to do
no,
with myself.
no. But what I'm saying is, what was your subject in college? What did you graduate in?
Economics.
Economics. Okay. You had to think a lot,
Economics
huh?
went over the top of my head.
my
Because the
my
only
plus two was like
macro
that,
that now
science.
makes sense. Yeah, yeah, God, it was horrible. The only macro that now makes sense to me is a macro lens on a camera. I have to come clean with it.
I love that. I love that. But my previous interview was with an economist who's now written a cookbook. So I said that now
Oh,
then
yes.
we food people will write on economics now. So
So you be
and
my
back
guest, okay? Count me out.
happily. So back in school, it must have been a bit different to source, right? Like if, for example, in Calcutta when I was growing up, it was only perhaps in Newmarket, few places where you'd get things like cooking chocolates and all that. So what was the place in Delhi for that? Was it Connaught Place or where would you buy your
Nothing,
stuff?
nothing. Frugality was the name of the game. We never got anything. We baked with whatever there was at home.
Hmm.
So I think it was just flour, butter, eggs, and cocoa powder. That's it. And I think in those days there was dalda, not even butter as such. I
Butter
still
was used to be
remember.
rationed.
Yeah, yeah, everything was Russian. I still remember the recipes that say so much dalda. And now I think back and think, okay, wow.
And we survived.
Of course, and we will survive. Of course, we will.
And so was the cocoa that Cadbury cocoa which would come in the tin?
Yes, the purple
Uh, uh,
tins
uh,
then. Now they've got
yes, yes.
plastic.
In fact, I was speaking to someone in Mondelez the other day, and I said that when you're growing up, you'd eat Enid Blyton and about hot chocolate, and then buy those cocoa and
Yeah,
stuff like
drinking
that.
chocolate.
But this is interesting. Since you said you were an economics student, I don't know if you'd come across this or you know it, but Abhi Banerjee was saying me that the word economics apparently comes from okonomics. I mean, it's there in his book, which apparently means making do with what you have. And then he said his recipes are not that because he leads a life today where it's possible to have access to everything. So in a way, before you did economics, your baking was all about economics.
And it still
Yeah,
is.
maybe
I
didn't
love what he
realize that.
said about it.
Uh,
Absolutely. I'm still on economics because I still bake with what I have mostly. Of course,
hmm.
we're blessed now to have so much stuff at Amazon a button away. But yeah, most of my recipes
You
are
have
really
an
silly.
Amazon
And
list also, right? You have a
I
Amazon list
do
of the
have, yes, yes,
yeah,
a
yeah,
little
yeah. That's
Amazon storefront of sorts.
but
Again, very
lockdown must have been tough.
scattered.
Lockdown must have been tough.
Sorry?
Getting stuff. The lockdown must have been a bit tough, right? Because getting imported stuff and all
Of
that.
course. But I used what I had. I always
Yeah.
used what I had. So if you see my recipes, you will find a lot of flour if it's maida or whether then got onto whole grains, and whole grains meant
Yeah.
atta. Or if it was the puja season or the navratri, then we would get kutuka atta or buckwheat flour.
Hmm.
So stuff like
Hmm.
that. I just kept changing my recipes with whatever I found. And the thing is, if you're not baking commercially, you're baking for yourself or around, then you have the luxury to experiment. And if something, of course, often something fails, and you can always upcycle.
No, but that's true because I really don't have a baking bone in me. Years back, I did a course at Pooja Tinga's thing, and I made brownies for my own
Honestly.
birthday actually, a brownie cake.
Wow.
So like so I didn't this thing, and I made cookies for my wife. And since then, her complaint is that since then I've never made it again. I use my oven for the roasts and stuff. No, but the
Yeah,
point I was
very
making is
bad.
that, but I get her good stuff. I get her good stuff. But it's the same thing
Anybody
about
can get
cooking.
good stuff, Kalyan.
She loves this series, and she never misses my Fudukasi for her chat. So please, don't instigate
I
her.
try not to.
So, but what you said resonated with something which I've seen while cooking, because when you're cooking yourself, then you're very conscious about what's going in, unlike when you're eating out, and often you can extract a lot of flavor. And I'm sure baking's like that, with very small portions of like ghee, butter, even say meats or stuff like that. You don't need the sort of largest which commercial thing. So is that was that the thought behind your starting your blog? I mean, why did you start your blog? It was at that time
I started the
2007 was very
blog.
new.
Yeah, it was just that I had a lot of time on hand, and my husband was traveling, and he got me a digital camera. So,
Yes.
and of course, we had just got the internet a couple of, I think, a year ago. So, when everything is free, and then you think, okay, you don't have to take a roll of film to get it developed.
Yes.
And there's something as easy as plugging a cable and you see your pictures instantly. It's like gratification. So that's how a blog started. I think because of the net, and I discovered a couple of blogs in the US, and they really had me
Yes.
smitten. There were pastry chefs at the time in the US, and they would take really nice pictures. So I
Yes.
thought instead of writing in my scraggly little notebook forever and sitting all shransha, it was just something very exciting to do. So I started a blog only for myself to kind of break my own monotony and add some happiness to my life with pictures. And then very gradually, a couple of people started noticing that there was something called me there as well, which was like, I mean, that
Yes.
really
Yes.
hit bolt out of the blue. When somebody left a
Was it
first
was it
comment, it was,
Blogspot? Was your
it
thing a
was Blogspot.
Blogspot?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yes.
And then I migrated to WordPress after that, and then bought a domain. And everything I did was because somebody said, I was on Twitter at the time, that why don't you get yourself domain and this and that and the other. I think it was Purple Foodie, Shaheen from Bombay.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
get your own
Yeah.
domain. And so that's how I did it. And there was a lovely community on Twitter at the time.
Exactly, exactly. In fact, that's something which I so miss, both Twitter as well as in blogs, because people would
Yeah.
comment on each other's blogs and Twitter, and I know Shaheen from back then, and like you said, I mean, there were so many people who were willing to help people out and each other out. I can't recognize Twitter today. I
Oh,
think
you can't absolutely.
Instagram's perhaps a bit like what Twitter was, perhaps a bit. But and when did your
But
interest in
everything seems,
photography start? Sorry, you're
no,
saying
no,
everything seems.
everything seems to take a lot more effort now. Earlier with Twitter,
Yeah,
it was it was like an everyday flowing process. You didn't have to think, you didn't have to do anything. Everybody
yeah,
was there.
yeah. Like the I saw some pictures from of a person really high up in our political thing, without masks in surroundings in India and abroad. And then I actually thought of tweeting, and with no malice, that what's the take on masks? Then do we not need to wear it? Because then I'm happy not to wear it. But then I thought that I don't think in today's
Opposite.
environment one can refer to a political person or at least a certain party and say anything innocent. You know
Exactly
even
what I meant. You have to think before you speak now. Earlier, it
yeah,
was what came
which
to
is
you
sad.
naturally.
Yeah.
Nobody felt bad.
Hmm.
May I have
And
coffee
how
as
did your
well?
interest in? Yes, yes. Please go ahead. Is coffee easily accessible? Do you want me to
No,
pause a
you'll
bit?
have to send it. I want to have it.
Okay, so we'll do an
I
exchange. So I'm sending you an espresso, and let me see
ठीक है.
what can you send me. Chia
अच्छा
seed,
order.
panna cotta, no, eggless. Whenever I see eggless, I feel like telling people, okay, you should charge me less because you're not giving anda. Acha, I'll have this with the coffee. Huh? This is the
Salted caramel.
mousse cotta,
I love it.
the panna cotta and a
Panna
mousse.
cotta. And you know where that came from? That was a panna cotta
Yes.
recipe that failed. And it turned out like a
Uh,
mousse. So I made it into a mousse cotta. That was a really nice
I,
one.
I, I was reading recently that apparently the tiramisu was something which came out of a failure in the kitchen, the original tiramisu. I mean, the
Could be. I
founder,
think the Eton mess.
yeah,
Yeah, could be.
yeah,
The
yeah,
Eton mess as well came out the same way. But I mean, a lot
and
of things do happen.
even some of the Bengali sweets like the mishti doi and also the garber ice cream. I don't know if you've come across that in
No, I haven't.
Bangalore. Okay, so it's like a
Oh,
fabulous thing in Bangalore. It was actually invented in a place called Diana at Udupi, but now it's really popular in Bangalore, and
okay.
there's one place which does it very well. So it's a sort of a Sunday, and they put in scoops of ice cream and nuts and this that, and it's like, so apparently the story goes that in
Hello.
the original Diana, once one customer came in and said that he needed something for his daughter, like an ice cream or something like that. And so the waiter went and told the cook inside, and the cook saw whatever was around and threw it together. And this thing, and he loved it, and since then, and it's garber because they couldn't make whatever was the original thing. Now a lot of this is of course hearsay, but no, but it's a nice story
No,
and a
no,
great
but
ice cream,
interesting. Nevertheless,
and
interesting.
a great ice cream. Very, very
Wow.
addictive. Now, tell me about your photography. How did Because again, we come from a generation where, like, so my dad passed away, so I inherited
Hmm.
his Pentax and Yashica, and my initial photography would be like, you look at aperture, this, that stuff. How many of your 36 are left? Rolls, not teeth.
Same, same. Yes, be
So
careful,
how
don't
did
click
your
an
thing
extra
start?
one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of
Uh,
course.
See, I used to take pictures with what was it, Pentax only, I think, but
Hmm.
that was before I started baking or blogging.
Hmm.
Once I got the digital camera, there was nothing to stop me, right? I wasn't wasting anything, and the same card could be
Yeah,
reused.
earlier we would never take food pictures with the
Who
roll.
would take food pictures with 36 exposures?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
only
that
people.
reel was very precious at that time.
Yes,
So I think it was just because of the digital thing. And again, at the time that we started blogging, there was a huge community that even had competitiveness. I don't know if you call that, or would come together to take better food pictures.
oh yeah,
And
yeah.
there
Like
were
even there would be these story things, like story of the month, and
yes,
yeah, there
yes,
would be a lot of these
and
initiatives.
yeah, there was something that they did. Does your blog look better with this? And they would pick, I think DGLMGIT, something of the sort, and then they would pick people and say so and so has made it for the month. So there was always that desire to get better,
Yeah, yeah,
but it was a
yes.
limited community of sorts.
Hmm.
And I see a lot of it now as well, but everything is so overcrowded. It
Yes.
takes the joy away.
I wanted to ask you about that because this is something which I feel, and I've been sort of contemplating a lot about that. That a lot of us, when we came into blogging, you, Riya Mitra Grawal, Rushina, even Shaheen, whom you spoke of, though she was much younger than us, we came into it, like you said, because of boredom, and we wanted some sort of creative outlet, which was different from our daily life, and we did it, and with no purpose. No, commercial purpose or whatever. Then
No,
some of us,
definitely. No
like,
purpose makes sense too.
yeah, yeah, and then some of us, like both of us, took certain commercial paths from that, which is fine. But I'm saying that today, almost everyone who enters social media, and I guess it's more Instagram than blogging, is are there because they want to achieve something, and they say how quickly we can achieve this, and there's so much of things out, like reels and this and that, and like you said, I mean, it sometimes is a bit overwhelming because, like, I mean, I've been blogging for 14 years. So I was 14 years younger when I started. I mean, I don't have those energy levels. And also, since writing is what I do all the time now versus it being a escape from market research, I don't want to be out there so often. In fact, during Diwali, for the first time, I took a break. I told myself, you will not click a picture of what you've eaten. You will not. And then for 4 days, I took a picture, only one food picture, and that also I didn't post it. But how do you deal with this? And what's your word of advice to
See,
people
can you
coming in?
imagine the pressure and the no joy in what you do? For me, I
Hmm.
still have a lot of joy in what I do. I really enjoy everything, but I'm also quite fortunate to have a really nice community on, with now Instagram being the best or the most used
Yes.
platform. There's a really nice community there, and I know that they enjoy what I do. They're always grateful, they're always talking to me, lots of DMs, and I try to engage a lot. I try and answer every single DM that I get. And but for me, it's not the race to prove. It's just that I wake up every morning with an idea that I want to create. So you'll see small
Hmm.
small cakes, 5 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch. I don't do very big
Two
ones
inch,
because
2 inch
I do little
cakes.
ones like a pastry, little
Ah,
patisserie
ah,
cakes, but also because it's visual for me.
yes.
So there are certain times that I feel the push more to create when
Hmm,
there's maybe summer comes and the mango season starts, where you think, all right, there's
hmm,
color. Now with strawberries that have started,
hmm.
or I discover, I'm like this, if I discover a new ingredient, I get a little obsessive about it. So
Give
I
an
just
example.
discovered
Give an
blue tea.
example of something.
Blue tea. I discovered
Blue
blue tea
tea.
I think, last month. Blue tea, matcha, they
Okay.
call it. It's it's a butterfly pea powder, which
Ah,
is
the
known as
Thai
it's known as
drinks, huh?
blue matcha for whatever. And I had a
Ah,
flower
okay,
pot that
okay.
was growing the same flower, and somebody posted something about it. And then somebody said, "This is blue." I think I found it on Amazon, and I bought it. So that's been
Huh.
really festering on me. And then I mixed it into cream one day, and I got this beautiful blue. So if you go to my
Wow.
feed now, you'll see matcha, blue matcha,
Let,
blue matcha. So
let me
I'm a
go
little
there.
obsessive about these things, which
Like a
is really
Smurf.
silly, but
It
yeah,
would be
it's
like a
like a
Smurf.
Smurf. God, I haven't heard of the
Let me just
Smurfs
find
in
it.
years. Yes, the blue Smurf.
Yeah.
So
Wait.
I was obsessive about quinoa at one time when they started growing it in
Oh,
India.
yeah. So there's your
Yeah, yeah, there you are.
blue.
Don't
This
even
one,
ask
right?
me. I'm like this. This is
This is
exactly
your
this.
latest. Your
I'm trying to
latest.
get off it.
And the blue is coming on it.
Yes, and the blue
So
is there in
that's
the
it.
previous one. No,
Yeah.
it's there in the previous reel. It's there in the one before that. Yes, and there's one more with truffles. That's
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
truffles
There's
is
no
there.
blue.
Yes, yes, there you go.
You could have been an ad for Chelpak or Surekha. You remember those brands from our growing up days, like
Huh,
the
bilkul. I can
Chelpak,
still be, no?
Surekha.
A Karmakar put in a word.
But
Tell them
puppy
I'll
pen.
still be.
But who uses fountain pens? Who uses fountain pens? So that's the
Yeah, another
hmm.
problem. Who uses fountain pen? So sad. So yeah,
But
that's how I create content now.
but have you but you've always been focused on or should I say passionate about baking. So was there a conscious choice? Like, is it that you don't cook? Is it that you don't make savory bakes? Is it that you don't make mithai? I mean, why did you sort of stick to baking?
I'm not sure. I enjoyed baking. I didn't cook at the time. I started cooking only after I got married because
Okay.
the husband had to be fed. But and I have books and books of recipes written down from every poor person that crossed my path, every aunt, every relative. I mean, I used to just kill them for their recipes, and they're really nice recipes. So I cook a really mean korma. Biryani is not the best, but I still make one, and people eat it. I make kebabs. I make sambar, and idli was for lunch today.
Uh,
I make a lot of pasta. I make everything. I make khawswe.
that's a lot.
I
That's a
grill
lot.
chicken. I do everything. I mean, you should be ashamed of yourself if you haven't graduated from brownies and cookies. So
Yeah.
it gives you direction. I hope Kenaz is listening to me. Okay,
So,
so I do all of
but,
that.
yes. No, you're saying
So
you do all of that.
passionate
Yeah.
about baking. Does have a couple of kormas and stuff. I just got a lot more focused later on desserts because I found it's better to have a niche once Instagram came about actually. So
Hmm.
I stuck to that niche, and now with the pandemic, I found that everybody said eggless, eggless, eggless.
Yes.
And I tried, I have to be honest, it got to me, and I tried to push it away for the longest time because I thought you cannot bake eggless. And I'm not
So,
going down.
but why pandemic and eggless? I mean, people who are eggless, like the Jains, Marwadis, and all that, would always be that,
Yeah, they
right? I
were
mean, that
always
what's the
eggless, but
connection?
yeah, I think during the pandemic, people had fewer things at home and they couldn't go out
Huh.
to shop that much. So
Hmm.
eggless was, for me, it became a really nice, like a motivation to try something new.
Hmm.
And once I started, I loved it because I don't like the taste of the egginess that comes in my
Okay, I'm just
desserts.
going to take a little interruption. Like I said, we are
Sure,
in,
sure, sure.
both my boys have been, I don't know how to sort of are following us. So, can you see? Can you see him, Baby Loaf?
Yes,
Okay, there's Baby
yes,
Loaf
yes.
and there's Nimchi. So can I just open the door to let Loaf in? And there is Loaf. I mean, I'm sort of working out of a makeshift thing, but I'm coming back on
Harry,
this.
take your time. Don't worry at all.
No, no, no. But they get a bit this thing if they don't have access to us. So yes.
No,
So
I
yeah,
can
you were telling me
imagine.
about
Mine are outside at
you have a dog, right?
two.
Wow.
I have a
And of
10-year-old
course,
cocker.
in Gurgaon and Delhi, you can have an outside. We don't have that option in Bombay.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have an outside, but the little dog
Huh.
is autistic, so she keeps
Huh.
us up
Oh wow.
most of the night, but she's very sweet.
Huh.
She's
Wow. Okay, I'm just going to pause this for a second because my breed has. Okay, I'm back. You got a sort of view of both boys, and you can still get them. I mean, they're happy
ah,
because this room has
sweet.
just been restored because there's a lot of. So this is my study, and you can see the two of them in the corner. And right from the beginning, they have
Yeah,
whenever they see me sitting there, they are there. And I must tell you this story because since
they're
you're
on
a
the
dog,
window.
I have always been a dog lover, except
Okay,
maybe the time when I
interesting.
first came to India. When I first came to India as a kid, and my dad was, as my grandpa was in Pandar Road, and I was maybe 3 or 4 years. So for some reason, a dog
Hmm.
sort of chased me and bit me, you know. But since then, I love dogs, and I've disliked cats. I've disliked cats, and in fact, there was some 3 4 years back when I was going through a very low phase in my life, and uncle of ours had actually suggested to kind of us that keep a puppy and he'll be much better, and we didn't take it because
Yes.
at that time both of us went out to work, and we felt that we were not ready to commit. And then baby Loaf came into my life, and then he made me a cat lover, and then came in Nimki who's a lockdown baby, and now they call me a cat whisperer. So like I have some friends who feed cats outside, so when we are all together, the cats will eat from them, and then they come to me and nuzzle. So
How
they're very
sweet is
jealous.
that?
Okay,
Amazing.
now
I mean, wow.
it truly is. Okay, now coming back from cats to eggs. Yeah, so you're saying pandemic egg. In fact, for us it was the reverse. I mean, being a Bengali and a Parsi household, we made sure if nothing else is there, at least eggs are there. But it's interesting. I mean, I mean, you never know things. But yeah, so it's more because of the pandemic and lack of stocking. You said that people are
That
asking for
people were
eggless.
asking, but the whisper was always there. And the time,
Hmm.
and when I shifted over to complete eggless baking, they were the happiest. And made me happy as well because it gave me motivation and it made me experiment, and I would keep thinking, how do I make this eggless, and then got me more ideas. I started, for instance, a cavity cake which came to my mind one day, and I just cut out a bit and filled it with something, so that became a nice
A cavity cake. So instead of a cake giving a cavity, the cake has a cavity. So this is like a
well, it's
revenge of
both, it'll give you
humankind
a
on
cavity
the
too.
teeth. But I like this. This is like the revenge of mankind on
It is
on, on
100%
sugar.
the revenge of baby. Yeah, so
Cavity cake.
it's interesting. So I cut a cavity out of a cake. I make a cake and I cut a cavity out of it, and then I fill that cavity with something. So it's like an entremet, but it's an easier way of doing it.
Hmm.
So you have the cream inside rather than the cake inside. And
Yeah.
so I did a lot of it during the holidays. I did a shrikand, a mango shrikand, and stuff and stuff and stuff. And people really enjoyed it and recreated it. And that just keeps me thinking more and more. A mango treshlesh, a falsa treshlesh, all of this.
So how did that make you feel? Because we are in a at that time, especially we were in a lockdown situation, a new pandemic, not like malaria or plague or whatever. This is not something anyone knew anything about, and everyone's life changed, whatever be the circumstances, and I'm sure yours and your families did as well. So, am I hearing that this eggless demand sort of gave you a sort of fresh purpose, or am I just putting words in your mouth? I
Oh,
mean, is
definitely. Just gave me something new to do and something different to do every day. And I was like, okay, the dogs were really happy that everything was shut and there was somebody at home all the time. Though there's always somebody at home, but for them, I have to be around because
yeah,
I'm their feeder,
it's like that for
etc.
Nimki, our younger one. I mean, it's Kenas and me.
Ah,
He's
needs you.
been here all his life.
Yeah, so the little ones, Bambi and Coco, always want me around. They won't even get out of bed unless I get out of bed. They're that bad. Everybody can open all the doors, but the minute I get out of bed, they get up and come running. So
Wow.
for me, it was okay. I've become more reclusive, and I have no complaints.
Hmm.
I'm a happy reclusive. It gives me more
So,
time to shoot pictures. It gives me more time to do stuff at home. For me, it's the same.
so there are a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with that, who sort of like to network and go attend events and stuff like that, and they were really missing that. And now that things are opening, they're going for that. But at least for someone like me, who's I don't know whether recluse or not, but I this thing I actually don't mind. I'm happily using this excuse as for not going to events and parties and stuff like that. But you don't feel that, and I'm now asking you these questions for people who also watch, because I mean,
Of
you're a
course.
role model to so many of us. That is it that you can you can not be out there and still sort of carve yourself a successful career in the world of food. Any thoughts? Because you've seen yourself, you've seen others who are different from you. So what is your thinking? Because some people like to just cook or bake, and I mean they don't need to go. They don't want to go out there, but they feel the pressure that I have to be seen, I have to be this thing. So any
See,
advice from you on that?
yeah, actually depends on what you want to do and what you rate as success. For me, I'm not. You wouldn't find me putting my face on my on any social media platform. You won't see me very often.
Yeah,
Even at the
yeah.
time you see me, I'm a little reclusive.
No, we we see you only in the articles.
Oh, get out of here, Karmakar. That's all nonsense. I'm a very, I come onto the screen very hesitatingly because I'm happier behind the camera. So for me, my outreach to the world is through what I do. And that
Okay.
connect is always there. There is enough. So when I'm on social media or Instagram, for example, whenever I post something or share something, for me, it's very important that the audience has a takeaway, a positive takeaway of some sort or the other. So
Wow.
I think if that's
Can
success,
you give me an
I'm okay.
example? Just can you give me anything which comes
Yes.
to your mind
So
of any post? Uh, I mean, we don't necessarily have to see it. If it's close by, I can see it also.
no,
But
any
any
post, for example, I'm talking about something in general. If I
okay.
share a
I'll take
recipe,
this. This is your third last post.
okay, the strawberry
Is
one.
is this? Do you want to say something about this?
Yeah,
That some
so
positive takeout?
the reel is on this handle, which is passionate about baking. The recipe is on my other handle, which is PAB recipes. So what I did was people were asking for recipes constantly, and this my main handle, passionate about baking, has a mix of pictures, recipes, on and off. So everything was getting very lost. So then I
Hmm.
decided to start a dedicated handle just as an experiment called PAB recipes, where I would
I'll go
only
to
share
that.
recipes. So that's interestingly got an audience and people were happy. So what I do now is every time I post something here,
Uh,
the recipe has to go onto that handle. So
okay,
it's
okay,
almost
okay.
like,
I didn't
yeah,
know
it's
about
almost
this.
like
Okay.
a digital cookbook of some sort. So it's got all the recipes there.
Mm. Wow, wow. And you're just giving it out there. It's not that you've thought of like making an app and getting people to
Oh
pay for
no,
it.
I'm a little lazy.
But
But
you
see,
do but you do work with brands, right? I mean, sometimes we've had discussions on social media about like if a brand wants work done, it shouldn't be for free or for free butter or something like that. Do you have a point of view on that?
no, definitely. I work with brands. I work with a lot of good brands. And
Hmm.
for me, again, it's very important. I will not unwrap a bar of chocolate and eat into it for my audience to see me doing that and advertise
Hmm.
a new bar of chocolate. I mean,
Unless you
everybody.
actually like it, you've tried something and like
No,
it.
no,
I mean,
even if I like it,
huh.
you tell me if I'm eating a chocolate or you're drinking that cup of coffee, for instance, in front of me, what is my
Hmm.
takeaway? I either want it or I'll have to go and get up and see,
Yeah.
there is no takeaway. So if you tell me how you've made that cup of coffee, at least there is something
Hmm.
for me in that. So if I'm working with a brand and I'm using even a Cadbury's Silk Mousse bar, for instance,
Yeah.
I'll make a dessert using that, and I will use that to garnish, to decorate it as well. But there will be something more, something that the audience
Hmm.
will take away with. And it has to be a
Yes.
positive takeaway. So I'm not going to stand picturing a hamper or pouring myself a drink and make my money. That's just not me.
Hmm.
So I
So
say
it's
no
it's more
to
like say for example that mousse. If you're showing a new way of decorating something with that,
no, I
and
make
then
a
using the
taste.
mousse chocolate, yeah.
I use the mousse in the recipe as well.
Okay,
So it's
I
part of the
understood.
tart and it's part of the decoration.
Yes. Now, this is where you and I are different. I mean, not this part, but I mean, I belong to what one can call the storyteller or diaryist sort of school of this thing. In fact, there's so many times when I put up pictures or recipes or something, sorry, what something I've eaten, and people ask me recipe, please, and I tell them that look, I'm not a recipe person, and if someone has sent me this or I've had this somewhere else, how can I give you the recipe? You, on the other hand,
Obviously.
are very out and out recipe person, and people are looking at baking, and it's something which is exploded, and they get functional stuff here. I'm just wondering, and I don't know if I'm inferring too much into it, and I'd love to hear your point. But you said that after you got married, recipe books and recipes given to you by people were really your savior as you started cooking. Is that when your love or reverence for recipes started, or have you ever thought of it, or have you always been a
No,
recipe
I
person?
actually haven't thought of it, but
Uh,
that was my survival. There was no
mm,
other way for me to get into a kitchen because I was clueless. I had never cooked.
mm,
I used to work with British
mm,
Airways before for about 8 years, and then I got married, and it was straight from there into this. So I was
mm.
clueless. So that was my survival. But now, when I look at desserts, I just find that I can't stick to a recipe. I have 100 cookbooks, and unfortunately, every time I open it, my mind goes and finds its own some stupid change, and I completely turn it around. But when I share my recipes, I find that a lot of people who are like me when I was younger,
Yeah.
and they want that
Yeah, but
recipe,
we
and
are
they
all
don't
still
have
young. No? We are all
of
still young.
course, I
Maybe
mean,
when you start,
younger.
when you started cooking, young or yes,
uh,
or
yeah. So I maybe that's a resource for them now. Maybe
mm,
nobody in my family had baking recipes, so I had to stumble
yes.
around and find my own way. So maybe they're like
Mm,
that now, and they find, acha, here's a recipe.
mm.
Also, I think
So that's
visuals help a lot. If you take better food
yes.
pictures, if you style them a little bit, and then I see you're a storyteller. People come to you for stories, and they're nice stories. They've got a flow to
Yeah,
it. Your narrative is really nice,
yeah.
and it's warm, and it kind of draws everybody into your own life and your experiences. So
Hmm.
that is what your audience comes to you for.
Yeah, it's
Mine
like
comes to
different
me
counters in a
for
buffet. It's like different
absolutely,
counters in a buffet. And
absolutely.
your photography, because you started in 2007, but right from then, like it's been pretty path breaking. I mean, no photography is like been pretty new age, because at that time there were either people just photographing their cakes at home, or they were the professional photographers. But their stuff was very advertising world sort of thing. But your photography sort of preempted what became the Instagram model of photography.
Yeah, it's quite strange that you say that, but my inspiration again came from the blogs in the US that I saw, and there were
Yes,
pastry
yes,
chefs who would really take nice pictures. Nobody would do it here.
yeah. Like my
And
inspiration from
then again,
writing
at
came
that
from the
time, there were
blogs
very few
abroad.
Indian.
My inspiration from
Absolutely, yeah.
writing came from
There was a
Anthony Bourdain and all.
structure to it. Yeah,
Yeah,
there was a
yeah.
structure to it. The riffraff wasn't there. You said enough that would make sense to somebody. So this way I
Yeah.
would show enough that would make sense to somebody. And for me, that was very important. There's always clutter. So it just got better and better. I also discovered Pinterest at that time. So
Yes,
between Twitter
that's a.
and Pinterest, there was
I think
enough
Pinterest is
inspiration.
that old, is it? Pinterest is that
Pinterest is
old. I
really
mean,
old.
I've
I
also
think same as old as Twitter, possibly
okay. I've
older. I
always
don't know.
been on Pinterest, but it's not been a active medium for me. I mean, it's always been
Because for
very
me,
visual.
everything is very visual. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I was also thinking that I mean you're so inventive. Like I don't know how I mean how many recipes are just in this book. But I mean, do you have a count of that? Is it like 100 plus recipes in the book? Maybe.
100. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why because every alternate page are
120.
also pictures and stuff. 120 odd recipes, and your blog and Instagram page has so many. So how do you keep like do you at any point think of going to baking school, because there are people who've done that, gone to corporate law or whatnot for serious courses, or do you look at online things to learn? How do you keep your reinventing yourself? How do you keep doing new things?
It's just the mind. It's just a creative mind. Thoughts keep coming to my head, and I've got everybody at home who's very supportive. So they will eat every nonsense that I create. So,
Yeah.
and if they don't, then my parents are always there. So, you need an audience. First, there was the blog that had to be fed. Now it's Instagram that needs to be fed. So
Yes.
it's just, I think, wherever your abilities or your interests lie, if your
Hmm.
aptitude is such, then I think you find your balance. I find a lot of people don't want to think out of the box. They don't want to
Hmm.
think that they can do it. I often get questions which I'm glad to answer. If I do something with a brown sugar, the question will be, I don't have brown sugar, can I use white sugar? If I use ghee in a cake, the question will be, is it okay if I use ghee, butter instead of ghee? And these thoughts keep coming to my mind. So often I say yes or no or whatever. But I also tell them the best way to learn is to experiment. You've
Exactly.
got to step
Exactly.
out of your zone. You've got to think differently, make a few stupid changes, and you learn.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's too much of hand holding, which is expected, right? I mean,
Too
which
much.
is
It's our
yeah.
education system. They have
In
taught
fact,
us only, or maybe we shouldn't
no,
go
no,
down this rabbit.
no, no. You should, and I'll tell you why. Because in case anyone, I mean, hardly anyone's seen my YouTube channel or whatever. But if anyone's seen the interview with Avid Banerjee, and Avid said the same thing, that he came up with this cookbook as a, in a sense, a protest against TV recipe shows which are perfect. So therefore, he's given measures like one finger of ginger, whatever. And Cheyenne, who's done the illustrations, they've not put any food photos. She just put geometrical designs for each dish, and saying that basically, I mean, no, that's a point of view whether you want to give pictures or not. But the point of view, like it's like you're saying that after a while, take your own path. So I asked him the same thing, that is it like a conscious or unconscious protest against learning by rote. In Bengali we used to call it
Absolutely.
mukhosto bidda. And for me it was a bit
Okay.
difficult because I'd come from a O level background into ICSE. So from where I was in fourth standard writing things like stories on a suspicious looking man, then when dad passed away and I moved to an ICSE school, it was like 10 sentences on a cow. I don't know if today you're allowed
Yes,
to write
they
that.
don't let you.
But I so love the when you hear these different perspectives, that yes, I mean, why, I mean, discover, I mean, that's what you've done. I mean, if you want to
So,
be a Deeba Rajpal, you have
yeah,
to sort
no,
of
no.
think.
Interestingly, you say that. So when I bake, I don't follow rules. So when I go to a few blogs, they
And
say in Indian food blogs or
this
baking
is
blogs.
breaking news, and this is breaking news because the assumption with baking is very precise, which is why people like me just don't go there, because we are not organized people.
So
So
yeah,
this is
come
like
follow
a
me, the lazy baker. No problem at all. I put everything into a bowl now with eggless, and I just whisk it all together. And I don't think air, no air. What is going to happen? And I shove it into the oven, and it always gives me a cake. When reels
huh,
started and we thought 30 seconds, how do I show a cake be
huh,
my banana bread, for instance?
huh.
So in the cookbook, the recipe has a wet mix and a dry mix. For my reels, I just put everything into a bowl and I stirred it together and I baked it. And so many people made it after that. And they all came back to say,
Wow,
this is the best one we've ever made. So
wow.
for me, I find a lot of blogs still and baking blogs that tell you this is why you do this. If you don't do this, then do this. And if this doesn't happen, and why you do this. And I keep thinking we're going back to school constantly. Why can't we break that?
Uh,
Everybody doesn't come here to learn why and how, and if you use this ingredient and a spoon less. So I'm a bit of a rebel. I've always been. So for me, I'm here to break rules. I'll put everything into a bowl, stir it together, shove it into the oven, and it's okay. It still bakes.
I
So
am
that is my happy
turning.
place.
I'm turning a bit red in the face because when I do share recipes, which is not too often, I like to give
Uh,
explanations behind everything, but maybe that's because I like to give gam. I mean, you know, like I would like to be a professor, like so maybe
no,
now
so
that
that is what
explains
you
it.
are like. My husband, research analyst, needs to know everything, and I'm like, just get on with it. Just
As
get it.
long as you don't say that this is mansplaining, I mean, that's not the
I'm not
intention.
saying a word.
Okay, now closing. Let's see how much time we have. We've got a couple of few minutes. Tell us a
Okay.
bit about this book. Who's it aimed for at, and what can people expect to get out of this? Uh,
Okay, this book is aimed for anybody who wants to do something in chocolate. If you're caught off guard somewhere, really hungry, there is a recipe for everybody in this. 75% of the recipes are eggless or egg free, which is interesting. The whole tarts chapter is eggless. But beyond the eggless factor, I use ingredients which are readily available. So you won't find me going down the gourmet path. I find
mm,
things that are hopefully in everybody's kitchen. Obviously, if you want to do a special cake, there has to be a little more effort, maybe a few
yes.
more ingredients. But
Mm,
what I like about it is you can take bits and bobs of recipes and mix them and make your own, something completely
wow.
different. So you don't get stuck to something. There are enough ideas for you to break the barriers, but there's
Mm,
enough for everybody in this. From the smallest little vegan chocolate truffle, which might use just chocolate and yogurt, for instance, or and blueberries. I think there was blueberry yogurt, or granola, or basics to bottles. We've got salted caramel, we've got peanut butter, anything that might help you. It's a beginning. It's not. It hasn't been a very easy process. I never realized what you commit to when you get
ah,
into a cookbook. But yeah, there's something for everybody, and don't get intimidated. It's got very simple recipes. And I'm always a DM away, actually. I'm always there. Ask
you
me.
are. Is this a pandemic baby?
It is. Pre-pandemic was when I started it. It got
Ah,
delayed because of the pandemic. So you do have a lot of pandemic recipes and reference through it too.
okay, then what I'm going to do as we end is that I'm going to go on record saying that I'm not going to be my usual alsi, lazy self. I'm actually going to go through this because when you said that this is a book for anyone who wants to bake with chocolate, I'm married to the world's biggest chocolate lover, and given that we've just completed 20 years of marriage, I think maybe I
Congratulations.
I can sort of uh, you know
I,
break my fears and make something for her. If I do, I will tag you, and and if she likes it. If she doesn't, then then I'll send
I'm
you the
sure.
DM. But
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
so much,
Thank
Deeba. It
you.
was such a pleasure talking
Absolutely.
to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. Take
Not
care,
at
Kalyan.
all, not at all.
Bye
Bye.
then.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.